Okay, part two. I want to, now this is going to be the weird video, as if I don't talk about weird enough stuff already, but um, this whole thing about the election now, we either just let it completely go and we never get back to how it was for entertainment purposes only, how what happened on November 5th was hijacked, I'll say, right? Hijacked. And but it was, and I've said this before, but the same way that Leon Lusk and his little group of kids um, marched in and stole all the money from Social Security and Medicare, blah, 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 and they were siphoning off, found a way to siphon off money, almost like taking a few dollars here, a few dollars, and found a way to channel and siphon money out of all these accounts to them into 45, and the 45 is transferring it into Doge for entertainment purposes only. But that's what I've always seen. That's what I feel very strongly they're doing. They're set now. They're taking all their money. They're siphoning all the money to themselves, or a portion of the money to themselves. They found a way, and access our private data, probably looking at immigrants and all these things, and anyone that they see that they don't like, you know. But anyway, the same way they did that and walked into a building, accessed computers, stole and changed data, putting ghost system in, right? Put a ghost system in keylogger and all that stuff. Is how what they did to our votes. And our votes are like currency. It's very similar. It's the same type of thing. Now, I've told you that I had a dream after the event on November 5th that I was in the theater and in the lobby, and this, like a robber with a gun, walks into the lobby and says, "All right, this is it, everybody. I mean it." And then blah blah blah, the dream blips a little bit, and then he runs off with his gun, and this guy that looks like Mr. Bean turns to me and says, "It's the Grok." And I wake up, and that was my psychic dream about how Leland stole the election for entertainment purposes only. And and I had many psychic hits before I had that dream, because right after November 5th, the night of, and the next day and that weekend, I was getting psychic hit after psychic hit. That there was a cheat code. Leland put a cheat code into the voting machines so that, and you don't have to have internet to do that, right? They don't have to be on the internet while we're voting. You can do that beforehand. And he had a deal with Dell chips that were put in voting machines. And the same way that they hacked to Social Security and veterans and all these systems in our government, websites, everything. That's what he did to voting machines for entertainment purpose only. Cheat code, I heard. Cheat code from 6 to 8 p.m. So all the early votes for Kamala, votes that day, people standing in line, people voting that day, from 6 to 8 p.m., the tabulators opened like a slot machine, and all those votes for Kamala just ran, and they knew, I feel like they knew we wouldn't contest it and do recounts and check the paper ballots, because Democrats can be so gullible, and that really sucks. I hate that. We did have a chance to do it. I feel like there were certain Democrats who are aligned with Republicans for entertainment purpose only, who convinced Kamala not to do it and convinced Biden not to do it. It's going to look bad. We're going to look like them. That's gaslighting. They have gaslit us all these years and made us think we were crazy. Well, anyway, okay, I'm going to be fast because I have to go and I have to upload this before my phone dies and all that. But besides that dream, well, let me tell you about the dream. So the dream, Grok, it's the Grok. Well, the day after the election, I got from Spirit that Leland used AI to perfectly map out election results. And then I saw the Polymarket map before the election that showed each county that was going to win and where it was going to be red, and it was like exact. And you can't tell, with the world now with AI and Chat GPT, you can't tell me that he didn't do this through the internet. He mapped out election results. He perfectly mapped it out. And Polymarket was betting on what he was doing. And he even said to them, "Trump's going to win." And he told Trump, "Don't worry, you're going to win." And the other day, 45 said again. He said this is why they didn't have him out in front of cameras before the inauguration, because they knew he was going to like blab everything. He said, "I wouldn't be here if they didn't rig the election. Thank God they rigged the election, and I'm here." Now, you could say, well, he just meant 2020, but you should hear. I need to find the audio. It's not that. He's not referencing to his untrue claim that Biden lost in 20. Biden won in 2020. Everything the 45 said that Democrats did, they were trying to do to steal the election in 2020, but got stopped because Nancy Pelosi was in office. Now, they gaslit us into thinking that there weren't like Wi-Fi and whatever. I'm going to shut up about that. Okay, that's it. But they gaslit us. Here's the stuff we don't want you to talk about, because when we're going to steal it, we don't want you to feel like you can fight back. Anyway, shut up. He said it. I need to find the audio. He literally said it. Thank you. I wouldn't be here if you didn't rig the... He literally said it. Okay, so anyway, I don't know why we're not using that and prosecuting him and doing research. Anyway, here's the thing. So don't call me crazy. Someone already called me crazy for this when I said it in early 2021. They were saying that we were going to use satellites to access voting machines and change the votes. And before I even heard Sidney Powell try to paint this on Democrats, which is what they were trying to do, I got a hit from Spirit that they were using satellites to access voting machines and change votes. And someone said, you're crazy. And I was like, okay, I'll shut up. But what I got was, you know how your thermostats used to have meter readers come out, and they would say, oh, look how much, they'd come in your backyard and your dog would bark at them and you'd hear your gate open and close. I realized, I remember I was like, wow, they don't come to your house and they don't come to your yard anymore. They can check your thermostat on the internet. It's all done on the internet now. Now they don't even turn it off at your house. They do it over the internet. I just paid my energy bill. Ugh, it was expensive. And when I haven't been able to pay it and they turn off my electricity, and then I did pay it, 5 minutes, it's on. No one came to my house. Everything's done by Wi-Fi now. I've heard people, here's where I got my hit. Someone said, it was like early 2021, someone said, my thermostat keeps changing when I leave my house. I turn it down to save money and I come home and it's up really high. And it's almost like, and she said, oh, and I heard somebody through, this is what's great. I heard somebody talking through my thermostat. It was weird, and I don't believe that. But what I got was that if they can use Wi-Fi to change the setting on your thermostat and also to turn it off and on, why do you think they couldn't do things like access voting machines with, and why would Leland have all these Starlink satellites? He was in a mad race before this last election to have Starlink, have a huge web of Starlinks all over the sky, and also the drones. Now here's something else. Okay, so before the pandemic, there were psychics saying they're gonna use the pandemic and shut everything down so they can install 5G. And nobody wanted 5G. It was like scary and all this stuff. Now, I never got that they used the pandemic to install 5G, but I did get that they saw an availability to install it when people weren't out freaking out. You know what I mean? The point being, March 2020, the world shuts down. I take my dog for a walk. It was like this type of weather. I take my dog for a walk every day. The world was like, it was like being on the moon. It was the landscape of nothingness. Nobody out. We were the only souls out there, me and my dog. And I saw truck after truck through town with poles and these internet trucks. And I was like, they are installing 5G. They are. The pandemic wasn't for that, but they used the pandemic, the shutdowns to do. That's what I feel. Now, what was 5G for? What would 5G help you do? For entertainment purposes only. Access everything through the internet. Make it easier to access machines through the internet. That may be completely wrong, but that's what Spirit told me, and that whatever. And the other thing I got was this morning I was talking about how I've always felt that Ivana did not die falling down the stairs with a cup of coffee in her hand and having a heart attack. I always felt that someone stunned her with a stun device. And I remember I looked that up and it said that that's a common thing in Russia to use a non-weapon and to use a stun device to stop someone's heart. And so there's no evidence of foul play. And so I looked that up today and I was like, you remember that? Let me look that up. So I looked it up and I found all the stuff about Russia and EV weapons that they've been using since about 2017 to access, and they use drones to access people's computers and people, phones, etc., cars, and to stop them in their energy weapons. Now, whatever. For entertainment purposes only, so I don't know. You could look it up. But they said drones. And you remember when, before the election, all those masses of drones everywhere, and I said they're not aliens. Those are something else. Those are something nefarious. What if those drones, and remember people were like posting videos of their car radios doing weird things and their lights were like off and their TV and the power would blip off and on. What if this was Leland with Russia for entertainment purposes only, using the drones before the election to see how they can manipulate electricity and people and computers and machines? I'm going to leave it there. Can that be proven? Well, if you can get the drones. Remember his brother they saw that his brother had a patent for a drone company, Elon's brother. Anyway, for entertainment purposes only, not fact. Take it as you will. That's what I'm getting, though, intuitively, how they did it. Just, anyway, thanks for listening. Bye.